that I'm talking in the right way. And of course, welcome to the GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP1.com. Yours truly, Pastor Kevin here on the number one faith based, motivational, and inspirational broadcast platform in the country, GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP1.com. And as you can tell, as you can see, as you look at our television screen, my friend is back, Mr. Steve Hamilton is here with us. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm well, Kevin. How are you doing? It's so nice to hear from you. It's been so long.
Yeah, well, you know what? First of all, I'm doing great. And it is a fabulous day here in this area. And it's getting even better now that I see my friend on the screen here with me. And before we get started, Steve, you know what? Introduce yourself, man. People may not know who you are, where you're from. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Who is Steve Hamilton?
I'll tell you right from the start, Steve Hamilton is a Cubs fan.
Yay!
I just want to put that on the record before we begin any further. I am the author of a book called A Scandal of the Particular. In my former life, I was a prosecutor, a criminal lawyer for a number of years and prosecuted offenses across primarily the province of Ontario in Canada. And that's what I did. And then I decided that I would put pen to paper. And I wrote a book called A Scandal of the Particular, which you have been so wonderful to promote on your channel and to give me an opportunity to speak of. So I'm very grateful for that.
Well, of course, for those that don't know, Steve is one of our featured authors on the GMAP Broadcast Network. You can always stop by and, just click on the tab that says featured authors, and you'll see a copy of the current publication that I'm showing you on our split television screen. Click on that cover, and it will take you to the necessary location to get more information and details about the author as well as the publication. Speaking of that, why don't you tell us a little bit about this particular publication? What does it entail? What's the content of it? Tell us about it.
Well, the book is about Hyman Kazan, who's a criminal lawyer in Vancouver, Canada. And he's facing a lot of challenges in his life. The criminal justice system can be a meat grinder where they just chew up people, including the lawyers. And he is in a journey, sort of the victim's journey, and seeking out justice. And was one seek out justice? As I indicated before when we chatted, that every conviction, whether it's criminal or personal, has a consequence. Same with choices we make in our lives; they all have consequences. And so, he is trying to go down that path, and he is involved in a case that is involving a murder of a young man from Scotland. And he is faced with the dilemma of prosecuting a case involving that particular scenario while his partner is involved with the judge who he is trying the case before. So it makes for an interesting dilemma in terms of how to deal with all of those types of issues. And the person that's responsible for the death is the very judge that's hearing the case. So that's what the story is about.
Wow. Well, I'm sure, as you can tell, I know it's a fabulous read. It's a publication that you want to make sure you have a part of your bookstore and archives. And speaking of that, what would be the process if someone wanted to show their love, care, concern, and support today and reach out and purchase a copy, receive a copy of this particular publication, A Scandal of the Particular? What's the process for them to do so?
The easiest way to do it, Kev, is to go on your website and click on the book that's on your website, and it goes right to my website. We're talking all these websites, but not to get tangled in the web, but you can go right there and it gives you links to how to get the book or how to contact me or any questions that you might have. And I'm available to be contacted at any time, and you can purchase the book there. There's immediate links to both Amazon and to Barnes and Noble and Apple Books and all of those types of places where you can get your own copy of the book. And I'd also welcome any reviews or any comments that your readership has, or your listenership, I guess I should say, because I would welcome to hear what they think about the book and about sort of those issues about justice. Recently, a group in LA contacted me and they asked the question, "Where is justice?"
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to have that conversation with them in terms of that very issue. Is there anything such as justice? Is it in the moment? Is it in the court cases? Where is it today? And so those types of discussions have been very fruitful, and as a result of the book, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, well, I that's a very, very good question. Uh, what's next for Steve Hamilton? I mean, what would your response be to a question like that?
Well, I think that that's what we're all kind of wrestling with. I think justice is in sometimes in the moment, in terms of what happens. Justice is an interesting concept that really covers a lot of issues, Kevin, as you probably know. It's something that's very personal, and it's something that has to be pursued. Is there a right? Is there a wrong? What is the consequences of the behavior? Where it leads us? So that's something that, it's very personal to each individual in terms of what justice is and what it looks like.
Mm,
And I think everybody is wrestling with that now. But it really involves a conversation like we're having today. What does justice look like in terms of a particular case or a particular situation that's happened? So
well,
it's not something I think that you can just lay out uh, this is what justice is. It has to be tailor made to the situation, if I can put it that way.
right. Well, a lot of this really stems and is rooted from the choices we make, the decisions we make, the rights and wrongs. And speaking of that, I want to dive in a little bit, Steve, if you don't mind, and talk a little bit about choices. You know,
Absolutely.
what what would be your general take on choices?
Well, I think we start off with choice is a gift, isn't it? A gift from God.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's where it starts from myself, and choice is also something that is a freedom. We have freedom of choice, don't we? Sometimes we don't think of it like that, but we do. And freedom and choice are also linked to that word that I used earlier, consequences. And usually you can choose one or the other, but you can't choose both, can you? When you think about it.
No, that's true. Well, I always like to think and share with individuals your situation, your life, your journey, where you are today, right now, is really based on the choices you've made in the past. I mean,
Right.
we make choices and decisions to do certain things, and then we wonder, why are we in this situation or why not? And it's all stemmed and based and rooted on the choices we've made. I mean, I look at I look at what I've done over the years, and I always say to myself, if I would have made a different choice back then, I wouldn't be in the same situation or the same circumstance, or I wouldn't be in this position of where I am today if I would have made a different choice back then. But back then, when you make those choices, you don't really know. You feel as though you're going to have an opportunity to readjust everything, but that's really not the case. You really have to understand now what choices you make in order to understand what you're going to be dealing with in the future. Is that something that you agree with?
I agree with that. And the other thing that when we first met, that I always was very greatly impressed with yourself and with people that have the same point of view as you, is that you own your choices, good or bad. And because it's exactly what you said, it leads you to where you are today and to where you are tomorrow in terms of what particular choices that you do make. And it's good to own your bad choices. I sometimes we want to maybe sweep those away or not talk about those. Or boy, I was foolish to make those choices. And we sometimes choices are made in the moment, aren't they?
Mm,
Without a lot of thought.
right,
You
right,
know.
right. I always say, when you look at certain situations, when you look at the choices you make, we have to look at two things: a reaction and a respond. Uh, uh, you know, Sometimes we react to things, and when we react to things, it's always immediate. We don't think them through. When you respond to things, you think about them first, and
That's right.
then you make the choice. So I always tell people, hey, if you're going to make a choice, make it based on your response to it and not your reaction to it. I mean, I look at marriages, I look at all sorts of things, and when we react to certain things, we really react without thinking. And 9 times out of 10, that reaction is not going to be a good or appropriate reaction. It's not going to be the right reaction. If we respond to it, think about it, and then make that choice, it will always work out better for the good with all parties involved. Is that something that you agree with?
Well, as a criminal trial lawyer, you'd always hear the phrase, "Well, it happened in the heat of the moment." The heat of the moment. There was something said, there was a response, there was an assault, there was a knife drawn, a gun drawn. It happened in the heat of the moment. And exactly what you're talking about, is having control or choosing to have control over your emotions. Emotions are hard because sometimes we just react. And you drew the distinction between responding and reacting, and I think that's the appropriate is to take that breath and to make the choice whether you're going to respond or react, and they're very different because you can end up like I say in the heat of the moment.
Right, right,
You
right. Well,
know.
if I were to ask you what now, this is going to be based on not using God, not using faith, not using your belief in some form of spirituality. If I were to
Mhm.
ask you to give a word of encouragement or inspiration to an individual today when it comes to choices, what would you tell them?
Well, I would think that the starting point is that we're all making choices. I think I've heard the phrase once that your existence in itself doesn't depend on choice, but your continued existence does. And I think that's important because choice, we choose faith. That's a good example, I think. Well, we choose faith. You have to choose faith in order to have faith to live the life that you live, of course, or the one that we're talking about. So I think people make those choices every day, either consciously or subconsciously. Some people choose science. There's nothing wrong with choosing science, but you have to think about and have faith in what you're choosing, or have the information that available to you to make the right choice. And we're thinking about what are the consequences of what that choice is going to be. So for me, of course, I've made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. I think that we can learn from our mistakes. We can learn from our bad choices and where they lead us. Um, you know, uh, there's two sides to the coin. There's God and there's a life without God, and there's right and there's wrong. There's life and there's death. But we have to make those choices in terms of what we're going to do with our freedom of choice, and what do we think the consequence of that will be.
Right.
I would encourage people to take a moment and, you know, don't act in the moment. Don't react like you just said, but respond. Maybe some contemplations involved. Maybe you have to sleep on some things. Maybe you have to meditate on some verses or some scripture. Maybe you have to ask for some counsel. You know, certainly, if you've got somebody that's a pastor like yourself, you can go to them and ask them, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you think about that? And seek their counsel on things. I think sometimes we fail to seek counsel when it's available to us,
Right.
or
Right.
we seek to get out, seek information or advice. Somebody like yourself, I feel very confident in saying, "Well, Kevin, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think?" Because I know that you're going to tell me the truth,
Right.
and I know that you have my best interests at heart, and not only your interests or somebody else's. So I have a confidence in that and a faith in that, and so the result of that is usually, or it's been my experience, a positive consequence.
Oh my goodness, I love this, and of course, you know what? We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back with more conversation with my friend, uh, Mr. Steve Hamilton, and of course, we want you to sit tight as we conclude this conversation because I'm gonna ask you to be able to come back and share some things with us about your particular publication. But I want people to sit tight. I want you to sit tight. I shall return in just a few seconds right after this, right here on the GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP1.com. I'm overwhelmed with joy to be able to be here on today and just kind of have this conversation. You know, Steve, first of all, I'm gonna ask you how many titles, chapters are currently in your publication, A Scandal of the Particular.
Okay. Well, let me just check. I didn't really think about that a lot, but I'll tell you that there are 48 chapters, my friend. 48.
48 chapters. You know, I'm gonna ask you publicly and personally. I want you to come
Sure.
back at least, if possible, once a week or every other week. And I want you to break down the areas of your publication. I want you to talk about, without giving the book away, of course, we want to continue to allow people to show their love, care, concern, and support by purchasing a copy of this particular publication. But I want you to tell us about it in general standards, and I want you to kind of go over, the area of each chapter in your publication, just to give people an understanding of that particular chapter, why you wrote it, and of course how they can embrace what it is that you're sharing. So, if that's something that we can do, I would like to
Wonderful.
extend that invitation to you and allow you to come back, once a week, every other week, and share the content of each chapter in your publication without giving it away, so that people can have a better understanding of the book and show their support by purchasing the book. Is that okay with you?
That's fine with me, Kevin. I'd love to do that. And let me begin. I'll just read the first chapter, a little bit of the first chapter, just to give a flavor, so that folks know what just a short bit about how the book starts and see what they think. Something about the West Coast rain made him crazy. those dark, endless days of gray, cold drizzle. It is then that Hyman Kazan would lose his sense of self worth. This weather, he thinks, invites depression. He has to find a way to deal with it before it gets the better of him. The Pacific Ocean is angry, rolling over in an emerald coral foam as he walks the grainy salt and pepper beach. He feels abandoned by both time and light. He had attempted to escape only to travel to Vancouver after the unexpected passing of a friend. The Globe and Mail obit was just a few scribbled lines about his friend, a man identified by his profession and the opportunities and dreams that he had left behind.
Wow.
Anyway, that's how the book begins. It's the sense of the weather, the rain, and him contemplating with the death of a friend and coming to terms with where he is at in terms of his life. Hopefully,
Right.
that makes you want to read more.
Absolutely. And of course, as I said before, I'm going to say it again. Steve is one of our featured authors on the GMAP Broadcast Network, gmap1.com. We encourage all of you stop by our platform, click on the tab that simply says featured authors. You'll see a copy of the publication posted there. We want you to click on it. It will take you to the necessary location to find out more intimate information and details about the author as well as the publication. And of course, we are going to get ourselves excited because we know that Steve is going to come back every week and discuss what it is that is involved or what it is that is the content of this publication to give you a better understanding. Of course, we are excited about that, but we're more excited about you reaching out and saying, hey, I have to have a copy of this publication just so I can have a great read and share it with my family and friends around the world because I think it's something that they need to understand, they need to know, and of course, they need to embrace. And again, as Steve said before, when you purchase it or when you go take a look at it through Amazon, please, after you read it, leave a review. Leave a review. Let Steve know, let me know, let Amazon know that you appreciate the content of this publication. You want to encourage him to continue to push out information and publications such as this one so that you too can have more and more of this great publication as well as others in on your bookstore or on your bookshelf in your archives and you can share it with others. Steve, I really appreciate you being here. I want you to prepare yourself because we are going to be inviting you back as soon as time permits to come back and discuss the first
Wonderful.
chapter or two in each chapter of the publication. We want to encourage all of our viewers to pay attention to the broadcast schedule because you will see the name Steve Hamilton on that schedule to know that you too should tune in and listen to what it is that he has to share. Steve, before I let you go, I just want you to share exactly what's on your heart today with our viewers and listeners around the world. And if in case, give them a few words of inspiration to know that they too can live through any storm and make it to the next level by the choices that they make. I'm going to move over and allow you an opportunity to just share what's on your heart. Steve Hamilton, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, PK. It's always great to talk to you. And, in thinking about choices, I began with something I said earlier. The choice is a gift, that you can choose your actions or your consequences, but you can't choose both, as I indicated. Choice made in the moment is often flawed, as we talked about, or you face consequences that may be not to your liking. So we encourage you to take the time to do that. Choice is defined as the act of selecting, and it's important that we choose to make the right choices, and we have faith to make the right choices, and we own the ones that we do make, whether they're good or whether they're bad, and we learn from those. I'm just so grateful that we have the freedom of choice. I'm so grateful that God has given us this gift, and it's up to us to use it wisely. And I'm so encouraged by you, Kevin, and your listenership. I've now listened to your station, and I find it incredibly encouraging, and it gives me, that's a choice I make now, but it's an informed choice to listen to you and to listen to the music and the productions that you've put on your station that just encourage me each and every day. So I ask your listeners to try and think about the choices they make and the consequences that will result.
Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate those kind words, and the feeling is mutual. I truly appreciate you accepting the invitation to be here with us today, to accepting the invitation to just simply be a part of our broadcast network family. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you allowing us to be a part of your journey. It's important that we embrace those that are doing things and encouraging others and putting out publications such as this one. But you know what? We want them to know that we appreciate them as well, because a lot of times we need to understand people don't have to be nice, people don't have to embrace what you're doing, but you did, and you continue to do so, and we thank you for that. You have our phone number. We want you to use it. Pick it up. Give us a call, text, chat, tweet, whatever you do. Make sure you connect with us. Ask us to be a part of what it is you're doing. And we want you to know that the answer will always be yes, and you will never ever have to ask us twice. We appreciate you. We love you. We want you to come back, and we want to continue to show our love, care, concern, and support to you as well as our viewers and listeners around the world to disseminate this publication and information to them as much and as often as we can. We appreciate you, Steve. We'll be inviting you back. And of course, we're going to let the world know that if you missed any portion, any part of this conversation, we will be placing it on our YouTube channel, on Facebook. We'll air it on our television platform and any other place we can put it to make sure that you receive it. But if you have any trouble, any problems, just connect with us. We'll be more than happy to show and tell you where it's located so you too can get a full grasp of what took place. We want you to have a fabulous rest of your day, Steve, and we look forward to talking with you again very, very soon, okay?
And just as a former prosecutor, I want to say, Kevin, you are guilty of being a great friend and a great leader. And thank you for that.
The only time in the world that I would probably accept being guilty of anything. God bless you, Steve. You have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon, all right?
You too, my brother.